Hello, Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. All of the Brain Talks participants are very energetic and cooperative. They sped up our virtual training with much more people. Brain Talks very happy to say that, and Brain Talk very pleasure for their cooperative participant. Today is a great day for Brain Talks family. Yes, you. You is the part of Brain Talks family. Today, special training, the new self empowerment with Emily Eldredge. How to heal your wounds and heal your wisdom. Dear participant, she is a beautiful and sophisticated minded person. She speaks 2 times in TEDx. At the same time, she heard as a speaker of British Parliament. His body language is very attractive. His body language, presentation, and public speaking is very wonderful. Can you follow her style? I am also follow her style. She is the creator of the new self-empowerment and the author of upcoming book Light, Dark and Truth. Dear valuable participant, you can mindfully join this session because this session is very helpful to you understand the empowerment, the explore and empower. Dear viewers, time is over. Now we are going to introduce our today charming, smiling and amazing and energetic person. She is mind-blowing trainer and speaker from the New York, USA. She is none other than Emily Eldredge. Emily Eldredge. Warm welcome and greatest congratulations to Emily Eldredge to join this session. We are welcome from Brain Talks and from Green Bangladesh. I am now invite our dearest guest, Emily Eldredge.
Hello, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to share my information with you all. Thank you all for being on. I understand it's pretty late at night where you are, so thank you very much. Do you want me to give my...
Hello.
Do you want me to talk a little bit about my work, or what would you like?
Yes. Ma'am, you can also introduce yourself.
Okay, excellent. You did a wonderful introduction, but yes, my name is Emily Eldredge. I am the creator of the new Self-Empowerment, which is an online program. I'm sorry, I have an online program, but it's a system that I created that's all about healing ourselves from the inside out, healing our inner struggles, healing those wounds, healing those triggers that we have, you know, the anger, the sadness, the frustration, all these different things that we have that happen inside of us that we struggle with. So my system is called the New Self-Empowerment, and the whole purpose is to really face and address and heal those parts within so that rather than getting in your way, they actually transform back into parts of you that can support you in living your truth. And the way I see it is that everyone, you, me, everyone, we all have a truth, capital T, truth, that we are born to live and that we were designed to live. So whatever powers we need, whatever skills, whatever wisdom, whatever talents we need in order to live that truth, we have. and we're here to develop. And when we live our truth, that is when we light up. That is when we feel most at peace, most fulfilled, most joyful, most wonderful, most loved from the inside and whole. And so when we live that truth, also we light up. And when we light up the world. And so that's my whole intention with the new self-empowerment, is that my intention is to help heal you of your inner struggles and help you discover your true light and your true powers so that you live your truth. And when we're all living our truths, we light up. And when we light up the world. And the world needs our light. Our world is in too much darkness. Obviously, we have the pandemic happening right now with the coronavirus. But, we also have so many other struggles. We have problems with our environment. We have wars. We have, so much pain and so much strife and so much stress. And so my intention is to really transform our planet and transform humanity from the inside out. So that's what my work does. And so I'm really, really happy to share with you the elements of that today. I'm wondering, would you like to, nice to see you too. Would you like me to go ahead and start my presentation? Shafiqul, would you like me to start my presentation? Hello, everyone. You know what? Shall I go ahead and start my slides? Would you like that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, then I'll go ahead and do that. Okay. So here we go. So what I'm going to share with you, as I said, is information that I discovered myself that came directly out of my own struggles with my wounds, my triggers, my blocks. And so I'm going to share with you the truths that I discovered about what was inside of me, and then ultimately discovered what is inside of everyone. I'm also going to share with you the technique, some of the technique that I created to permanently heal those parts, and explain to you what it is that is necessary to heal this darkness, these wounds and things inside of us. And then I'm going to share with you a really cool technique for honoring those 3 unique powers within you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hello to everyone, by the way. I love these messages. Thank you for saying hello to me. It's really nice to connect with you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. Let's see. Oops, nope. Well, why is it doing that? Hold on one second. Let me just, I think if I go in here, here we go. All right. Here we go. Okay, so the new self-empowerment, how to heal your wounds and reveal your wisdom. First of all, I just want to say this is a really important aspect of this, is a lot of times we resist our wounds and we resist our pain and we resist those parts of us that we don't like. But I'm going to show you that really there's a lot of wisdom in there. And there's also a lot of love and a lot of light in those parts of you. So the new self-empowerment, how to heal your wounds and reveal your wisdom. Shafiqul already gave a really wonderful introduction about me, but I'll just say my name is Emily Eldredge. I am the founder of the new self-empowerment. I am the creator of the drawing out process, which is the technique I created for healing your wounds really, really fast. Through the drawing out process is how I discovered our emPowers and our exPowers. And those are the things I'm going to share with you today. These are things we all have inside of us. And when we learn how to work with them, when we learn how to heal them and work with them and honor them, that's when we truly feel truly empowered from the inside out. And then my work has actually guided me to become a leader healer. So I work with people in leadership positions to help them heal of their wounds. So then rather than leading with their wounds, they're leading with their wisdom. And goodness knows we have a lot of leaders right now who really could be better at their jobs. And so my intention is to really help heal people from the inside out and even heal our leaders of the future. So I work with a lot of young people around the world to mentor them and help them recognize those struggles and transform those struggles back into their powers. And then finally, as he mentioned, I am the author of a new book. It has not yet been published, but you can sign up to receive excerpts from it. It's called Light Dark Truth. So if you go to lightdarktruth.com, you can sign up for those excerpts. So let me first start. I've mentioned a few times these three inner exPower. Let me just actually back up a little bit. Sorry. I've mentioned a few times the three types, the inner struggles that we all have within us. Now, there are a lot of different names for those types of, for those inner struggles. You know, some people call them, you know, blocks or parts of the ego or triggers or wounds or even inner demons. There are a lot of names for these parts of us that we struggle with. And so I want to share with you what the three types are that I discovered. Now, I'm going to remind you that I did discover this information through my own struggles. And I want to back up a little bit. I realized that I actually took one slide out of this presentation, and it was an important slide. So I'm going to have to back up a little bit. It was my mistake. But the point is that, and I have a TED Talk about this called The Truth about Inner Demons. And really, I tell this story about how I discovered my own truth and how I discovered that through my own struggles. So back in 2009, everything in my life looked like it was starting to really happen. You know, I've been struggling for a long time with my own emotions and my own inner demons, if you will. And yet I tried a lot of different techniques and nothing seemed to work. So anyway, though, finally in 2008, 2009, it really looked like my life was finally coming together. I'd really always been searching for my purpose. Who am I here to be? What am I here to do? And I really struggled to figure that out. And it looked like everything was finally going to happen. I was creating a business I loved. I found the man I thought I was going to marry. I had these best friends, and we were creating this amazing thing together. And then guess what happened? It all fell apart. Everything collapsed and crashed, everything in my life. And I fell into a deep darkness, a dark night of the soul, in which I didn't know who I was. I didn't know why I was here. I didn't know my purpose. And I really felt like there was no purpose for me even being here. And it got to the point where I almost wanted to end it all, end my life. Long story shorter, I actually ended up, this one night was an extremely bad night. And it was really in a bad place. And so I called the person who I knew would be awake at that hour and who I knew would listen to me. And that happened to be my mother. I'm extremely blessed to have a mother who's a psychotherapist. And she's a wonderful listener and a very kind and wonderful person. And so she listened to me as I was talking about these horrible things that I was feeling. I was shaming myself. I was tearing myself down. It was like you know, it was like something was telling me, you're a failure, you're no good, you're worthless, you failed at everything. So it was this horrible, horrible self-hatred that I was experiencing. Anyway, long story shorter, I told my mother about what happened or what I was thinking and what I was feeling. And she responded in a very unusual way because I never used this word with her. But what she said to me at the end was, she said, Emily, I'm so sorry you're in so much pain. And I would never, I said, thank you for listening to me. And she said, Emily, I would never want to leave you alone with a bully. Now, I don't know if you know the word bully, but the word bully, B-U-L-L-Y, means someone who beats you up, someone who's just mean. There's sort of the standard like schoolyard bully, you know, the kid in the schoolyard or on the playground who likes to beat other kids up. So anyway, when she said that, it was like this epiphany. And I realized, yes, you know what? This isn't me saying this to me. It's like there's a bully inside of me that's beating me up. So anyway, I went to bed that night and I woke up the next morning and I still felt that horrible self-hatred. And so I went somewhere and I thought, you know what, let me just try to write this down and just get these emotions out. And so I started writing down about living with a bully inside me. As I was writing, I noticed that I wasn't feeling any better, which I really wanted to, but I started seeing flashes of this bully. And as I saw these flashes, I thought, you know what? I don't know what this thing is, but why don't I just draw it? The point is that I ended up drawing this bully inside of me, and it came out, and I don't have it here, unfortunately, but I think it's on my website. I'll try to find it, or maybe I can post it later on in the comments. But the point is, this bully that I drew, I just scribbled it. And it was this bully that was spiky and horrible, and blood was coming from its mouth because it had ripped me to shreds. The point is that within minutes after I drew out this bully that was telling me all these horrible things, within a few minutes it disappeared. And I thought, whew, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I felt so free and I felt so much more at peace. And I realized that I discovered something very powerful, that for me, it wasn't enough just to talk about my feelings or to write about my feelings, but when I drew my feelings, that's when I experienced a huge catharsis and I experienced a kind of peace and freedom, and I felt so much better. So I kept doing that. I kept drawing. Long story shorter, the drawing those inner bullies or drawing those inner pains and struggles. You know, sometimes maybe it was I was procrastinating and I felt this inside of me, and I drew a puddle, or I just draw a big black circle because I felt just, you know, sucked down by this depression. So I drew and drew and drew, and I felt so much better. And as I felt better, people were commenting and saying, "Wow, what are you doing, Emily? You're looking so much better." And I said, "I'm just drawing." Anyway, the point is that turned into the development of a technique that I now call the drawing out process. By the way, this is all on my website, thenewselfempowerment.com. Okay, thenewselfempowerment.com. This is all there. So now we can get to this slide. The point is that as I did the drawing out process on myself, and then other people were finding out about it, and I started doing it with them, then it was this, I ended up having all these wonderful transformations, and then realized that there were patterns among these types of inner struggles that I was experiencing and that everyone else was experiencing. And so that led to my discovering that there are 3 types of inner struggles that we all have within us, okay? So I don't call them inner demons anymore. I just call them exPowers, all right? Because these parts of us feel like they work against our power. So that's how I define an exPower, something that feels like it's working against your power, that feels like it's stopping you or blocking you or preventing you from being the very person that you want to be, feeling the way you want to feel, and living your truth and lighting up this world. So I realized that was a lot of explanation, that it's my fault I forgot to leave in one of the slides. So now we're getting to what's, so the drawing out process I described. Now we're getting to some of the inner workings also of the new self-empowerment. And as I share with you these 3 types of exPowers, I just want you to be aware of how these exist inside of you. I also want you to know that as you discover these, that you might think, oh my gosh, that's terrible. There's something wrong with me. I have this inside of me. And I'm telling you, no, because you're going to discover some really amazing truths about these exPowers that are inside of you and me and everyone. Okay, so now that I've explained all of that, are you ready to learn what the 3 types of inner exPowers are? So I will explain them to you. So the first one is what I call inner controllers, okay? So these are the types, these are the struggles inside of us that a very typical inner controller is an inner critic. So I don't know if you've heard that term, an inner critic. Basically, it's a part of you that's telling you, or a voice or something that says, you're stupid, you're no good, you're not good enough, you're a failure, you screwed that up, nothing you do is right, or, people are going to hate you, or that tries to make you feel scared and doubt yourself, okay? I'm going to go through all of these in a minute, but the first one is inner controllers. The second type is what I call inner defenders. And these are the parts of you that feel like they're blocking you. That are trying to defend. They're very defensive, and they try to block any pain that's coming your way. Again, I'm going to go through these. And then the third type is inner woundeds, okay? These are the parts of us that feel very sad and scared. So again, controllers tend to be very critical, pressuring, nitpicky, meaning they kind of pick at little things. They criticize little things about you. Fear-mongering. They try to make you feel fearful about things. Very judgmental. Like that's part of being very critical, and also very oppressive. So that first monster that I described, the one that I drew that was telling me that I was no good, that I was worthless, that I'd always failed, what do you think that was? That was an inner controller. So that's the first type. The second type is inner defenders, okay? So our inner defenders, as I said, are the parts of us that are very defensive, very angry. They can be very righteous and superior and think they're better. They can make us think that way, very arrogant. And also defenders can sometimes be very violent. And actually, I work with inmates a lot, or I have in the past. And a lot of times, the parts of them that committed the crimes that sometimes would just take over their bodies were what I would call inner defenders. So they're just trying to protect us and create a block, but they can also end up causing a lot more pain. So then the final version is what I call inner woundeds. And these are really at the core of all of this, okay? So they're very sad. They are often very scared. They can, they show up as throwing temper tantrums. A lot of times when someone draws out an inner wounded inside of them, it's a part of them that feels very small, like these, and they're curled up in a ball, and they're feeling very neglected and very ignored. And yet they're in a lot of pain, and they're in the corner of a dark room. Sometimes, though, they show up, as I said, tantruming and throwing a temper tantrum and screaming and yelling and saying, I want to be heard, because they're trying to get us to recognize that there's pain inside of us that we need to honor and acknowledge. And that a lot of times, as we'll get to, these parts can have a lot of wisdom, all of these types. So, actually, let me back up a little bit. What I've discovered about these three types is that, let me back up again. I'm sorry, this is my fault. I changed my presentation at the last minute, and then I should not have changed it, but that's okay. You're still getting all the good information. Here's the truth about these three inner exPower types, okay? Now, when we look at them, we might think, oh, I have that inside of me. I hate that part of me. Or I wish I didn't feel that way. Or, that thing tries to tear me down. Or that thing reacts to certain situations in my life, and I wish it didn't react so strongly. So a lot of times we can struggle with these parts of us. Here's the problem. It's because we don't truly understand them. A lot of times we struggle with these parts of us because we feel like, as I said, they're getting in the way of us being who we want to be, feeling the way we want to feel, behaving the way we want to behave. But there's a reason why they do, okay? These parts of us didn't just form out of nowhere. They didn't just kind of, it's not like there's no reason for them to be. They all form directly in response to situations, to traumas, to stressors, to different things in our lives, to the need to adapt to our environment in certain ways. So all three of these types within us, these inner exPowers that we all carry, are simply survival mechanisms. They are protective mechanisms. They are adaptive mechanisms. So every single part of us exists for a reason, and it exists in response to something in our lives. Here's let me actually then get to this slide. This is what I'm getting to. Every exPower inside you has good intentions for you, okay? It is doing its very best to protect you or itself whatever way it knows, okay? So here's the deal. When I talk to these three parts, when I work with a client and we're doing the drawing out process, and I am talking, and that's part of the process, is I end up working directly. I talk directly to these parts, and they tell me their stories. They tell me their truths. They tell me why they exist and when they first showed up. And the point is, I've discovered that every single part of us is trying to protect us or itself whatever way it knows. So the intentions within all of these exPowers within us are good. Their intentions are good. Here's why that's really important. Is because when we can truly honor the good intentions of these parts of us that we may not like at all, when we can actually do that and recognize, wait a minute, maybe it's just trying to protect me. I don't like the way it's trying to protect me, but maybe it really is just trying to protect me whatever way it knows. Then rather than being fighting it, rather than being so against it, we can actually start to listen to it and go, well, wait a minute, maybe there's something that I need to hear. Maybe there's something that I need to learn. Maybe this part of me is trying to protect some other part of me that I'm not really honoring and valuing. In fact, that's often what, for example, a defender will do. it often shows up as protecting a wounded. And that wounded represents that inner child within us, the playful, joyful, happy, exuberant, creative part of us that maybe at some time in our lives, in fact, often for most of us, was shunned, was criticized, was ridiculed, was made to feel unsafe. And so that's why defenders and controllers will often show up. So they all have good intentions for us or for themselves. They're just trying to protect themselves or protect us, whatever way they know. But here's why that's an important part. Here's why I italicized the whatever way it knows. Because the ways that it might be doing that, may not be helping us anymore. They may be hurting us. Okay? And that's why we struggle with them. So that inner critic that's criticizing you, well, it may be telling you things that at some point did actually protect you from being criticized by other people. But now it's not protecting you anymore. Instead, it's just hurting you. It's tearing you down. So its intentions might be good, but the results are not. And that's the really important thing to recognize, okay? But I really want you to recognize that, though, because part of my whole intention with the new self-empowerment is to educate people, to educate you on the truth of what's going on inside of you so that you can have a better, more healthy, more respectful and kind and compassionate relationship with these parts of you and therefore with yourself, okay? So many of us may have been taught that the way we should be treating ourselves is to criticize ourselves. I am telling you, I can't even think of a worse thing. And this is coming from someone I used to mercilessly, ruthlessly tear myself to shreds. That's how I ended up with that mean monster tearing me to shreds. Okay? So that's the point, is to say, hey, you may have been taught to treat yourself this way, and therefore there are other parts that are treating you this way. But does it work? Probably not. Okay? There's a way for us to constructively criticize ourselves and sort of point out, well, maybe I could improve on that without ripping ourselves to shreds. Okay? So here's the point then. So here's what I'm getting to. What heals these parts? What does it take to then transform these parts of us that have adapted to our environments or to the traumas we've experienced? What does it take to really heal these? Now, this is where we're getting into the crux, the main points of, or the reasons why the drawing out process, my technique that I created, here's why it works. And really, it's all about taking the way we typically treat these parts of us and flipping it over and saying, nope, that does not work. But here's what does. And I'm going to share this with you. So there are three main sort of ingredients or three main sort of approaches that I recommend. All right. The first is to be curious. So if you have these parts inside of you, and we all do, all right, we all have these parts. Just yesterday, I was working on a part of me that was a controller. There were actually a couple little controllers inside of me, and I realized that they were affecting me. And so what I did is I didn't fight them. I turned towards them and I was curious. I was like, what's going on here? And I started to actually really have a dialogue with those parts of me and try to find out. Normally I would draw them, but I didn't this time. Anyway, so it's about being curious. When we're curious, we're not as resistant. We're more receptive. We're more just kind of like, why does this thing exist inside of me? Emily tells me that it exists for a reason, so there must be a reason. So it's about being curious. I'm not saying you have to believe everything I'm saying, but I'm just letting you know what I know has worked for me and for thousands of other people. So be curious about these parts of you. The second thing is, as you're curious and you start to recognize how these parts of you have been trying to protect you instead of, they're not trying to hurt you. They really are trying to protect you. They're just doing it in a way that's not very helpful. Then really having that understanding. So like some of the things that I'm sharing with you can help deepen your understanding about these parts that are inside of you. So being curious, having an understanding or seeking to understand, that's really important for helping to heal them. And then the third thing is empathy. Here's the thing. These, let's say you have controllers, defenders, woundeds inside of you. They didn't just show up one day. They formed in response to painful experiences and fearful experiences that you've had in your lives, stressful experiences that you've had in your life, okay? The point is, whatever pain and fear and things like that that you've been through, so have they. So they understand that pain, they understand that fear, they've been in this with you. Doesn't mean that the way they're treating you is okay, but the point is they've just formed different thoughts and feelings and behaviors in reaction to the pain and the fear. So they know how it feels to be in pain and in fear just as you do. And so when we can understand them and we can learn what's really fueling their behaviors, and it's always fear and pain, then we can empathize with these parts of us. Here's the cool thing. When we have curiosity and understanding and empathy with these parts of us, we're doing that to ourselves and with ourselves. We're giving ourselves what we need and what we want. I mean, don't you want people to listen to you? Don't you want them to understand you? Don't you want them to empathize with your feelings? I found that the most powerful way to achieve that sense of peace that we're looking for from other people, we want other people to treat us that way. First and foremost, we have to treat ourselves that way. We have to honor how we're feeling and honor these parts of us and recognize that they're just doing the very best they can with what they know, just like we are. So it's about having that self-patience, being gentle with ourselves, being compassionate towards ourselves. Be curious, understanding, and empathetic. Okay, so the next section is, these aren't the steps of the drawing out process, but the point is that the sort of energy with which we want to approach these parts of us is curiosity, understanding, and empathy. But really what the drawing out process are more sort of like, here's what's necessary to really transform them then. These are sort of the steps. These aren't the exact steps, but these are the essence of them. First, you got to identify, what am I struggling with? So for example, yesterday, I had this struggle that had been coming up inside me for the last 2 days, but I've had it so many times before. And I finally was like, you know what, I'm sick of this. Like, it was basically this lump that would show up in my throat, this fear and this nauseous feeling. And I'm like, okay, you know what is going on here? Because this keeps showing up. So I really went inside and I turned towards that. And I started to pay attention, what's underneath the surface? And actually with the help of my husband, because he doesn't do the drawing out process. So far, I'm the only one who can, but he knows how to help me just ask questions. That's when we discovered that really at the core of this were these two inner controllers that were causing me to feel that way. They were trying to protect me from fear, but they were also trying to get me to stay more focused on what was right for me. Without going into all of it, that's the point. But the point is that first I noticed the pain, or I noticed the discomfort, this blockage in my throat. And so I turned towards it. And then I discovered what's underneath it. Oh, so there's this thing. Okay, that's what's actually causing the feeling. And then what I would do, I didn't do this yesterday, but normally what I would do is I draw those parts. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I feeling? And what that does is it gets it out of you. It gets it, instead of being in here, it gets it out of you, so it's out there. But it also, here's the cool thing, when we draw how we feel, we're actually asking, typically when we talk about how we feel, that's a very left brain thing. Verbal, words, language, that's a left brain thing. And that's where we think of reason and logic. But our emotions and our subconscious, very right brain. And that communicates in images, okay? Pictures, visions, senses. So when we draw how we feel, we're actually allowing our right brain, our emotional part, our subconscious, to speak in its own language. Extremely powerful and important, okay? So that's why drawing is extremely powerful. And then we can talk with these parts of us. So, and I don't necessarily recommend this for everyone, because sometimes you can have an exPower or a part of you that's really just too intense, too overwhelming. So I understand. But I'm just saying that that's actually what does work, is to actually have a conversation with these parts of us and find out why they exist. Why are you here? What are you doing? When did you show up? Things like that, because these parts of us have their own stories to tell. And when we listen to those stories and just honor whatever their perception of reality is, it helps them calm down. Okay? That's what this is all about. It's helping them calm down so that they feel more at peace and we feel more at peace. Okay? So then the final one is basically once we've, listened to that part and understood, hearing why it's trying to do what it's trying to do and why it exists within us, then it's a matter of helping it find a new way of being, a new way of relating to us. So if it's an inner critic, it's basically what I tell that inner critic. We take it through the process and we reach that point where it's about, saying, okay, but what you've been doing is not helping me. It's been hurting me. And now I need you to help me and protect me in a different way now. And so it's about helping that inner critic go from being critical to being like an inner cheerleader. And this happens all the time. It is like the sweetest thing, where it goes from being really, really mean and critical to being like so supportive and wonderful and saying, I love you and you're the best. And that's actually what happened last night to those parts of me that I worked with. They went from sort of causing me to feel bad to being like, we just love you and want to support you. And actually I saw them in the final image, just like hugging me, hugging my heart. It was very, very sweet. By the way, this may all sound crazy to some of you, but I'm telling you, this is what works. Okay. Here are some examples of the drawing out process in action so that you can see that it literally, these parts that people draw and that are inside of them go from being really stressed out or angry or sad, see, there's that tantruming child, to feeling at peace, feeling loved and accepted and embraced. This one with the teeth, he actually, that was an inmate. He drew that. And then by the end, that part of him was like, yeah, everything's great. This last picture is also an inmate. A man in prison drew this. That was the wounded child inside of him that felt so neglected and ignored and in pain. And then by the end, he was so happy and so cute. And he has this t-shirt that says, have a great day. And then a belt buckle, a belt that says, live to be happy. So these are just visual examples of the transformations that have happened within other people, that can happen within you when you do this work as well. So the point is, we have the 3 types of exPowers, and the whole title of my talk is how to heal your wounds to discover or reveal your wisdom, all right? So as I said, these are parts of you that are doing their best to protect you whatever way they know. They're parts of you that have transformed because of the stressors in your life. But what did they transform from? So in my work with the drawing out process and working with people all over the world and taking them through this process and watching as these parts transformed back from being, inner critics to inner cheerleaders, or transformed from being, inner wounded children to like jumping around and playing on the playground, I discovered another pattern. That what these 3 types of exPowers were trying to point me towards and help me discover is that actually they represent 3 types of emPowers that we have. And these are the 3 types of emPowers, okay? So let me back up a bit. Sorry, back up again. So see the defenders, those inner defenders are actually just distorted parts of what I call our inner sovereign. And I'm going to talk about the sovereign in just a minute. Our controllers, our inner controllers, are just distorted by fear and by pain, distorted parts of what I call your inner impresario. Inner woundeds are just distorted parts of what I call your inner free spirit. Okay? So we're going to get into each of these now. Your inner impresario is the very logical, practical, strategic, organized, productive, and conscientious part of you. It's the part of you that knows how to get things done, that has a plan for everything, that is also about your survival. So this is the part that's most about practical survival, okay? Your inner free spirit. And again, these are all on my website, thenewselfempowerment.com, okay? Your inner free spirit is the part of you that's joyful and creative, spontaneous, innocent, playful, free. This is the part of you that lights up with joy and excitement about just being free to do whatever it wants to do, okay? And then your inner sovereign is the part of you that's very intuitive, powerful, independent, courageous, spiritual, and wise. So these are your 3 inner emPowers, all right? These are the 3 powers within you that I call them emPowers because their whole purpose is to empower you to live your truth, okay? Your emPowers empower you to live your truth. Now, you were born with these emPowers. I was born with these emPowers. We all have these emPowers from when we're born. It's because of the stressors in our environment or our relationships, when we have traumas or different experiences. That's how those exPowers form. But the truth of who we are is these 3 emPowers, okay? Your impresario, your sovereign, your free spirit. Again, these are all on my website. So if you feel like I'm going too fast, you can find all of this on my website. And then at the very end, I'm actually going to give you the link to my online program, totally free program that you can take yourself to really work with these parts of you more. But the technique that I want to share with you now is how do you honor these 3 emPowers? So the way the work is, the new self-empowerment, my whole sort of work, is that I find that we live our truth and we can feel truly and fully empowered by healing your exPowers and honoring your emPowers. So what happens is as we heal our exPowers and we heal these struggles within us, they transform back into those emPowers. They sort of rejoin with our emPower energy. And when that happens, we get more clarity, more peace, and this amazing wisdom and these visions of our truth and who we're here to be. The presence we're here to be just starts to like show up. It's amazing. So that's one part of it. The other part, though, is to honor your emPowers. So there's a really quick and really easy way. Drawing out process, healing the exPowers can take a little bit longer. But honoring your emPowers is something you can do right now and do more and more and more and get better and better at. And before you know it, you're feeling more amazing and more free. So there's a simple question, and I want you to write this down or take a screenshot or whatever, okay? Each morning, and this is what I do, and this is what I teach other people to do. Each morning, ask your 3 emPowers. Before you do anything else, open up your journal, get a piece of paper or whatever, and a pen, and write this down. Ask each of your emPowers one at a time. What's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you? Okay? So I'm going to sit and I'm going to tune in and I'm going to ask, all right, sovereign, free spirit, impresario, I'm calling you all. I want you to answer this question. What's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you? Now, that means I'm asking the sovereign what to answer that question. What's one small thing I can do for it today that would feel good for it? And it's going to answer me. Free spirit, what's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you? Impresario, what's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you? And listen to what they tell you, okay? Write down those answers. So the impresario might say, here's what would feel good for me. That phone call that you've been putting off, go ahead and make that phone call. That application might be too big, but the email that you need to send, I would love for you to send that email. Or the impresario might say, take a walk, go for a walk. You need to clear your head. The sovereign might say, I want you to light a candle while you're working. That's what my sovereign loves. It loves for me to light a candle. The sovereign might say, I just want you to sit silently just for 1 minute and just breathe and don't do anything so that you'll have some greater clarity. The free spirit might say, you know what? I think you should, play that game. Play that game with your kids, or play that game, that you've been wanting to play, that you've been putting off. The free spirit might say, like the free spirit I often will say to me, go get a cake pop at Starbucks. My free spirit likes sweets. But the point is, you ask each one what would feel good for it and write it down, and then do those things that day. Okay? Here's why you're going to do that. Because first of all, when you do those things that feel good for your emPowers, they're going to feel good for you. If it feels good for your emPowers, it feels great for you. You're going to feel more at peace. You're going to feel more whole. You're going to feel so calm, so much more at peace, okay? Also, by doing those things, you are creating a stronger connection of trust between you and your emPowers. A lot of times our emPowers feel like they're shoved to the side, they're disregarded, but they're always there waiting patiently for us to notice them. So when we can create that beautiful connection and that communication with our emPowers, that's when things really start to happen. And then without even asking our emPowers, what should I do, whatever, they start to just guide us automatically. So nowadays, that's how I mostly feel, is my emPowers just kind of automatically give me whatever wisdom I need to guide me through things, or to do things, or not to do things sometimes, okay? So that's the simple technique. So that's basically the essence. It's like a crash course in the new self-empowerment. As I said, you can go to my website, thenewselfempowerment.com, but also I have a free online program. I highly recommend that you take the program. It's free, it's free, it's free, okay? I am not selling anything here. My whole intention is to help you learn the truth about who you are, the truth about this darkness inside of you, these struggles inside of you, and the truth about the power and the powers and the wisdom that those struggles can reveal inside of you, so that you live your truth. Because when you live your truth, you light up. And when you light up our world. Our world needs your light. There is a reason why you are here, and it is because of the unique light that you can shine. So that is my whole purpose and my whole intention for sharing this information with you, and really encouraging you to take that online program, thenewselfprogram.com. It will take you directly to the program, and you can sign up and take the course as quickly or as slowly as you want to. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. Let's see, I'm going to stop sharing now and go back to you and just say hello, everybody. Again, now I can see some of your comments again. And I hope that was really helpful. I really, really hope that was helpful. Thank you. Thank you for your compliments. So, yes, your 3 emPowers, the exPower types. Let's see. So should I go ahead and start answering some of these questions? Oh my gosh, there are lots of comments. Hello, all your comments. This is great. I was sharing my screen, so I couldn't see. Oh, I'm so glad you like these. Sorry that I was kind of confusing in the sort of order of things that I shared. So I got to redo my talk again. Okay, so do you want me to go ahead and start answering some of these questions? What would you like?
Ma'am, many questions were already in comment. I'm show you the question.
Okay. Oh, okay. Please reply, is it possible to completely utilize these emPowers in this epidemic situation? Hope you are kind enough to answer this. I will be kind enough to answer this. That's very sweet. Yes, 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 yes. In fact, during this epidemic situation, when most of us are at home, by the way, I live in New York, but right now I'm in Arizona, where things are getting way worse, okay? So my husband and I have been staying home. If anything, when we're staying home, it gives us that opportunity to focus on ourselves, focus on what's going on inside, and work through those things. And yes, in terms of utilizing these emPowers, yes, this is a perfect time to tune in, to connect with your inner emPowers. Now, you may have a free spirit that tells you, like, I want you to go fly off to Paris, and it's like, well, may not be able to fly anywhere right now. So it may not be that every single one of your emPowers requests is honored right now. But remember how I said in that question, you asked the question, what's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you? Okay, small. So sometimes an emPower might say something big like that, but it's about being very small, because even if you do those little small things, they add up to you feeling amazing. So I highly recommend, this is a great time to start tuning into your emPowers and really listening to them and seeing what they tell you. And you might be so surprised by what they tell you, because I've had emPowers who, will guide me, and my emPowers guide me in my work too. And I'll have emPowers that guide me or tell me different things. And at first I think, that's weird, but all right, I'll give it a try. And then I do that thing, and it's like, oh my God, I never realized that I really needed to do that. I never realized that would bring me so much joy and so much peace. So that's why their wisdom is so important for you. So yes, 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 this is the perfect time to use your emPowers. I recommend you listening and honoring your emPowers every single day. I've had clients who literally went from, I have one client, I use her as an example a lot, but anyway, she went from being very burned out in her business and having to let go of clients because she was so burned out and so sick from being so stressed out. And I shared this technique with her just offhand. I had just created it or discovered it. She used it. I totally forgot that I'd given this to her. 1 month later, she contacted me and said, oh my God, that thing that you taught me has changed my life. She said, I went from being totally burned out and letting go of clients to now I feel so at peace. I feel so amazing. I feel so much more whole. And I feel like I don't need other people's approval for me to do what's right for me. So there are all kinds of wonderful results from this. Okay, so another question. Thank you for your other question. Ma'am, I want to know, what are the timely effects of new self-empowerment in practical life? So I just used one example of one client where she went from being very burned out in her business to feeling wonderful. There are so many results to this. So I'm using examples in business and how you can actually bring your emPowers to your business. My emPowers have helped me design my online programs and make it so much easier. And also, not only that, make it so much more enjoyable. One of the issues I find in most people's lives is that they're running on too much of that impresario controller energy. Okay, so the impresario, remember, here, I'll hold up my thing. The impresario, remember, is the part of us that's very practical, that's very, planful and strategic, and it really wants us to survive. But the problem is when we have too much of this, when we're running on too much of that, we end up with that, right? So this kind of energy, and we end up stressed out. And here's the other thing too. If we're doing too much of this, then what else are we missing? Well, sorry. What else are we missing? That free spirit energy. The impresario doesn't feel joy. The free spirit does. The impresario just knows how to give us practical advice and wisdom. But when we bring in these other two, then it's not just that we sort of survive. It's we thrive and we feel alive. And we have a sense of drive and purpose for living our truth. And so what ends up happening is, rather than living on this and always busy and always working, we suddenly can realize that, I think I'm working too hard, considering what it is that I really want. What's my purpose? What's my focus? So I realized that answer was kind of all over the place, but I really recommend that you apply these to your life, and you are going to see effects, I promise you. So how can we develop empowerment skills? So what I say with the new self-empowerment is heal your exPowers, honor your emPowers, and you can live your truth. So for me, in terms of the skills that I'm teaching right now, is the draw out those inner struggles, get them out of your system. Also learn to just recognize that there's wisdom in there, and that there's nothing wrong with how you feel. There may be actually a lot of wisdom in how you feel. And so that can kind of clear up that emotional space for that wisdom to come through. And also not only that, for resilience. So it's interesting when you said empowerment and feeling empowered. The way I see it is that empowerment is something we feel on the inside, right? It doesn't come from outside. I think a lot of times we think that power is an external thing, and it's not. It comes from the inside. So when we can help our feels more whole and at peace and strong, and then we feel more empowered. Inner peace means inner power. So that when we are feeling at peace with ourselves, with who we are and who we're here to be, and we're truly honoring our own truth, then when stressors come along, then we can see them for what they are and be more resilient in facing them. So I don't know if that fully answered your question, but I'm seeing a lot of questions coming up here. So trying to move along. Thank you. Ma'am, my question is, how can we use this empowerment in job placement? Well, first of all, now job placement, getting a job, that's not my expertise. So I just want to establish that. But in terms of job placement, I would say that first, I think you need to really tune in with your emPowers, sit with your emPowers, and also really honor some of those exPowers might be fueling you with too much fear, okay? So you might want to, I would say, do both. Just try to honor that, sort of calm down some of those fears and listen to those emPowers, because what they could tell you is that, your like intellectual mind might think, well, I have to have this kind of job. But really those emPowers might say, yeah, but you know what? Having a job like this might actually bring you more peace and more joy. And it might be a little bit less money, but it might be better for you. And it might give you more of a sense of purpose and clarity and direction. And so that's where I would say, listen to your emPowers, ask them how they can help guide you through a job placement process. Ask them if there are other sort of, tactics you could take, or other things you could consider, or other things that you might look for in a job that would light you up more, so that you don't just get a job just to make money, but also because it feels good for you. I think that's extremely important. So I recommend calling on your emPowers to help guide you through that. What is the difference between men's empowerment and women's empowerment? This is the second time I've received this question. It's a very interesting question. Here's the thing. First of all, I think that the steps and the ingredients and the approach is the same. Men have emPowers and exPowers. Women have emPowers and exPowers. Men can honor their emPowers and heal their exPowers. Women can honor their emPowers and heal their exPowers. One of the main differences, I would say, and the truth is that men and women in whatever society you're in have certain amounts of stressors. The difference is they might be different stressors. There might be different traumas that women have experienced because they're women living in male-dominated societies than men may have. And so women, there may be some additional things that they need to work on to really help them really discover their own power, recognize their own power, even in the face of a society saying, no, you're not powerful, or you don't have power here. And so I would say that, and the same thing with men. Men have certain kinds of pressures that are put on them that are different than women. So I don't want to get into saying that somehow, it's better or worse or more or less. But I do think that across the board, for the most part, I think one of the big differences is that women historically have been raised in very male-dominated, very patriarchal societies. That includes here in the United States, everywhere. I think that's been mostly the case in most societies. And so I think women there are some additional wounds that are related to having been raised as a woman in a society, just as men have different kinds of pressures. So let's see. Self-confident is the best confident. Yes, having confidence in ourselves. It's interesting because sometimes when I'm working with a client and we'll be doing this, healing those exPowers and really honoring their emPowers and such, sometimes they'll sort of keep expressing a fear. And I look at them and I think to myself, you're amazing. Like, why are you even questioning yourself, right? Because I see how great and wonderful they are and I see their light, but they don't see it themselves. And so sometimes I've noticed that the question I end up or the thing that I end up pointing out is I say, you know what I'm noticing? You're just not trusting yourself. So it's like self-confidence. It's also lack of trust in ourselves, that we can actually learn to trust our own truth and trust our own power and trust that it's guiding us. We all have, I'll just put it in terms of you have all of the power you need to be everything you are here to be. You already have within you all of the power you need to live your truth. Your truth. It's not anyone else's truth. It's your truth. And you already have all that power within you that you need. And that's why I point out that even those exPowers that we think are bad or weak or flawed, parts of us that we feel like we have to fight, no, they're just parts of our emPowers that have been distorted by pain and by fear. But when we help free them of that pain and fear, they become part of our power again. And then we feel an incredible freedom and peace and power within. And that's what this is all about, is you feeling that peace and that power so that you can live your truth and light up. How should we train ourselves in this pandemic situation? I don't totally understand what you mean by train. I don't know if you mean should you receive training, but if you're talking about training yourself, let's say in my work, I would say take that online program. Take the program. And in fact, you might want to encourage others to take the program too, because then they can take it with you and you guys can work on it together. So I really, really encourage that. How effective would these techniques be for the family problems? Yes, family problems are a really tough one because the reality is that when we're in a family, we're in a system. And that system can have healthy aspects to it, and it can also have very unhealthy aspects to it. And when we've grown up in that system, a lot of times we are affected by that system consciously, but also very much unconsciously. We don't even realize that we've been absorbing certain beliefs or certain energies or certain fears or certain wounds. And so in terms of how this can be effective, so there are people who are experts in working with families and working with relationships, and I have some expertise in that. But really, I look at it mostly from the point of view of honor your, let's put it this way, there's only one person you can control. There's only one, and it's yourself. There's only one person who you can truly heal. That is yourself. So start with you. Start with you. And recognize where you might be playing a role in what may be an unhealthy family situation, or you might be allowing yourself to be affected by that family situation. The whole point is that when you feel more at peace and empowered within yourself, when you trust your own inner wisdom and you trust your own truth, then it will guide you on what are the most empowering actions that you can take. And they could take different forms. An empowering, one empowering action that your truth could guide you to take is, well, I really feel like I need to be more honest with the people around me or with someone in my family about how I feel or what I need. Another action might be more sort of extreme, if you will, and it might be, you know what, this situation is too toxic for me and I need to remove myself. But the point is that the most empowered action are the actions that come from when we're truly listening to our wisdom and our truth. And so that's why I recommend always start with you. I have clients who have come to me and they've been in situations where, like, one woman, her husband, she was really struggling with the things that her husband was telling her. And so I worked with her in terms of helping her feel more empowered and work through some of that stuff for herself so that she could have whatever conversations she need to have and make whatever decisions she need to make. Actually, I'm going to tell you, I'm thinking of two clients and we're going to use them as different. In one client situation where she was struggling with her partner, her fiance, I'm sorry, it wasn't her fiance, but she was struggling with her partner, her boyfriend. She really was like, I'm out of here. This is not healthy for me. I don't like this. And so I didn't tell her what to do. But I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to help you feel more empowered and more clear and free and at peace so that whatever actions you take, they're guided by clarity and wisdom. In her case, she ended up getting engaged to the guy and they're going to be married soon. In another one, the woman was married and she wasn't saying anything about leaving her husband. But we worked together, helped her heal her issues, and then she ended up I found out later on, actually, divorcing her husband because she felt that was the right and most empowered choice for her. So my point is, you have two polar opposite situations. The point is to really, it's all about trusting and honoring your own truth and listening to your own wisdom, so that whatever choices you do make, or whatever responses, not reactions, but responses you do have to your family situations, you're making it from the greatest clarity and peace and wisdom. Okay, how can I fight against the backbiting of the colleagues in the workplace? Again, this has to do with other people's issues. And so in this case, I would say that I think you need to be really honest with how you feel about all of this, and how it's affecting you. Because what it might be doing is triggering some wounds. There may be a pattern here for you where you have found yourself in situations where this keeps happening. I speak from experience. I found myself in situations where this kept happening, where I kept finding myself in situations where I would be so nice to like the other women in that environment, and yet they were mean to me and they wouldn't speak to me, and I didn't understand. And what I discovered is that, well, some of that was a pattern that was happening over and over again in my life because it was trying to show me the wounds that I had when I'd been treated that way as a child. So that was one thing. But another thing is it really helped me to make choices that were better for me so that I wouldn't end up in that situation. So I don't know, in that specific situation, I don't necessarily want to tell you exactly what you should do, but I would recommend you check in with yourself first, and then listen to your emPowers and listen to your wisdom and let it guide you on whether you need to go have a conversation with those people, whether you need to have a conversation with your boss, whether you need to remove yourself completely from the situation, whatever that is, okay? You're very welcome, Hassan, for the free online courses. My whole purpose is to heal humanity from the inside out. So I used to actually charge for that course, but I don't anymore because I really want everyone to experience this information and receive it. I don't want money to be an issue. So thank you for your gratitude. And thank you, Janatul. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. You're welcome. You're very, very welcome. Any other questions? Self-empowerment, develop, grow up, how to do it. I'm not really sure what you mean. I feel like I've already sort of answered that question with saying, really just do the steps, do the process, learn about yourself, heal those exPowers, honor your inner emPowers, and you will feel more empowered to live your truth. That's what it's all about. Your truth is the most powerful force within you, okay? As I see it, you were born into this world with this truth, and you are here to live it. That is your job. And it's not anyone else's job to tell you what your truth is, okay? It's already inside you. It's this bright, blazing, beautiful, radiant light inside you. This wisdom, this knowing. The point is to trust it and honor it. And if you're having a hard time doing it, then you probably have a bunch of exPowers in the way. So turn towards them, draw them out, heal them, help them release. You'll feel more free and at peace for that wisdom to come shining through you. So I think I already answered this question about developing self-empowerment skills. Oh, you know what? I see a question here. I'm actually going to look at, I'm just flipping through. How can criticism be taken positively in our minds? That is a great question, because the truth is that some people's criticism, there may actually be some good information in it for us. It does not mean it's okay for people to criticize you, okay? The way I see it is that there's a difference between criticizing and critiquing, okay? So you may have heard the term like constructive criticism. Basically, that's feedback that's helpful. The problem is that a lot of times the way people communicate is by criticizing, by trying to tear us down or point out what's wrong, what they think is wrong with us. Here's how I address criticism. I have sort of simultaneous approaches. One is that I recognize, I take criticism as information. So what I do is I might listen to what the person said to me and kind of separate it from the emotion of whatever they said or whatever their intentions were, right? Because their intentions for me might have been bad. but there may be some wisdom in it for me. And I can think of very specific situations in my life where I had someone screaming at me, telling me all kinds of crazy stuff. But then there was one thing they kept saying that kept playing in my mind. So what I do is I look at that and I'm like, okay, maybe there's something for me to notice here. So in that situation, there was some good information that I needed to recognize, that she didn't necessarily mean that by what she said, but there was some wisdom inside of me that kept playing that because it wanted me to hear it. Okay, so that's one thing. There may actually be good information in that. The other thing, though, about criticism is it's usually a projection of that other person's pain onto you. It is usually, or often, whatever, I don't know the percentage, but it's a projection of their pain and their own self-criticism onto you. Rather than them looking at themselves, they're going to throw that on you. Because if they throw that on you, then they don't have to deal with it. They can just go around telling everybody what's wrong with them without having to really deal with themselves, okay? So that's where criticism, on the one hand, it can be helpful and there can be wisdom in it. At the same time, it can also be just a projection of their pain. And so that's what I tend to do, is I kind of go, well, where's the wisdom in this? Is there wisdom in this for me? And if there is, then I look at it. It could be that it's triggering some wound inside of me that I need to heal. And then I can work on healing that. But then at the same time, it can also be just a projection of their own pain. And that part of it, I can just ignore. Okay? How can I make myself an ever positive human being? Is it possible? And if you mean ever positive, do you mean always positive? So is it possible? I will say that it is possible. But at the same time, the problem is, I feel like if I were to tell you, oh yes, you can be positive all the time. The problem is, though, that when emotions start to come up, then we might tell ourselves that we shouldn't be feeling that way. And what I've found is that my negative emotions can lead me to positivity just as much as my positive emotions can. And so I find that the way to be positive as much as possible is not by trying so hard to be positive, but by honoring everything we feel. Because if we dishonor or if we try to reject those negative feelings, all we do is create more pain and struggle inside. When an emotion comes up, think about this, an emotion comes up, often we want to push it down because it hurts. We don't want to feel that way. But then what happens? We end up like this, in struggle. We end up with more struggle and more pain. And that doesn't work. So that's why I recommend that you can really work on being more positive, and that's fantastic. At the same time, I do not recommend that you at all negate or deny any negative emotions, because those negative emotions could actually be guiding you to some part of your truth that you didn't even realize was there. Okay? I will tell you this, though. I don't know if you noticed this, but I described how I was years ago when I was so deeply depressed and I hated myself. It's because of the work I've done on myself. I'm a different person in terms of how I feel. I feel amazing. I feel great. I still have struggles. I still get depressed sometimes. But I don't fight it anymore. And so it moves through faster, okay? And helps me to really even feel more positive on the other side of it. How to reduce the negativity, increase positive thinking. I think I just pretty much answered that. I don't believe in fighting negative thinking. I don't believe in suppressing it. I don't believe in resisting it. I believe in just letting it be there. And maybe there's some wisdom in there for you. I do think, though, that sometimes we can get in a habit too much of negative thinking. And that is something, again, tune into yourself, notice the patterns, and be like, where is this coming from? Why do I keep having these thoughts? Why do I keep thinking terrible things about myself or about other people? And there may be some pain and some wounds under there for you. Or it may be that a part of you is trying to protect you from really some other feelings. I don't know. But again, it's all about really learning to work with yourself and honor the wisdom that's already inside you. Self-criticism is the best way to upgrade myself and fill up my gaps inside myself. So I'm hearing that for you, you see that self-criticism is serving you. I'm not going to argue with that. If that's what works for you as you see it, then great. I'm all about helping people feel at peace. I just find that when people criticize themselves, that it actually makes them feel worse. That there's a difference between kind of like noticing things that we need to improve and saying, oh, I need to work on that, which is a very healthy, calm way. But what I think most people struggle with is I'm a terrible person and I really screwed up and all this kind of terrible stuff that people tell themselves. And I personally don't think that that's very helpful. How does that empowerment serve you in terms of who you are and who you want to be? So it's interesting you say who you are and who you want to be because, and you may have already seen this, that is actually how I define your truth, capital T, truth. Our truth is that inner knowing of who we are and who we are here to be, okay? So it's that inner knowing. And empowerment to me is simply this state of honoring your truth, trusting it, and living it. That's how I see it. So heal your exPowers, honor your emPowers, and what happens is you will feel more empowered to live your truth, okay? So let's see, we're at 13 after the hour. It's 10:13 a.m. my time. I'm happy to go for another 15 minutes, if that works for everyone, if people still have questions. Let's see, I'm just going through some of these questions and see if there's anything else. Let's see. You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. I'm so grateful that you found this helpful. Yay! I'm glad it's mind-blowing. And I hope it's also heart-opening too. Mind-blowing and heart-opening. So I'm looking through. Let's see. Just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Develop self-empowerment. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. I think that was it. I think we got everything. Let me know if there are any other questions. If not, then I guess we can conclude here. If that's good. I will, as I said, online program, thenewselfprogram.com. My website, thenewselfempowerment.com. If you want to receive excerpts from the book, lightdarktruth.com. All right? So I don't know if you want to continue. Yay, I'm glad it was mind-blowing. Yay. And thank you. And please feel free to follow me on Facebook at Emily International. Also on Instagram at Emily International. So you're welcome to follow me there. I post a lot of things. I post quotes and stuff like that. In fact, I think one of the quote I posted today, usually my own quotes, but sometimes other people's quotes, was, what if we created a world with less adulting and more playing? I think that so many of us are just so stressed out. You know, there's so many responsibilities, and it just doesn't seem like there's enough room for us to just enjoy life and play. I would love for us to create a world in which all three of those emPowers, the impresario, the free spirit, the sovereign, can all be equally honored in how we live our lives. That is my whole purpose and truth. So thank you all so much. Love you all. Mwah. Anything else?
Thank you.
Anything else? Are we good? Are we
actually, we are taking much more. We are taking also many questions, but in this session, we are learning much more thing from yourself. We are learn empowerment, experiment, and empower. That is great achievement for us. Thank you, ma'am, for giving this opportunity and talking in Brain Talks platform. We are very happy to say that you are giving a great session. You are providing a great session, and your smile and your presentation and everything is very wonderful. You are very charming, and you are also charming.
Well,
And
you are so welcome.
To say something about the new self empowerment course, I'm already 3 times complete my this course. um, I am learn new things from this session also. because I am already three times complete this session, but I am also learning much more things from this session, and I am very happy to for me, and very happy to say that please, who are attending this session and collaborated with us and cooperated with us and sharing our session. And I want to give you the link in my Brain Talk space, the new self empowerment course. You are easily knock this link and you get the course gateway, and you already 10 or 5 or 10 hours you complete your course, and it is very easy, and you get something from this session. But when you go to the course link and you enroll this link and learning, you are very enjoying, and you actually empower yourself, and you can find your explorer and empower. Thank you, man,
Yes.
for your passion, and we are enjoying a grateful session from yourself. Brain Talks very happy for your giving time and to say something from my participant who are attending this session, and to say that you are everyone write the summary in our Brain Talks dashboard. I am created a dashboard and everyone, and to provide the dashboard link in mail. So you are want to get summary in our Brain Talks dashboard, and you get Emily Anderson and Brain Talks signature in your certificate. That is very empower yourself. From when you see your certificate in your hand or online copy, you very much amazing, and you very happy. Thank you, ma'am, for
Oh,
your passion, and thank you, ma'am, for your great session. We are very happy. Another times and to say that warm welcomes and greatest congratulations from Brain Talks and from my green Bangladesh. When you come in our country, you see that Bangladesh is a green country. You're welcome in our country. You are starting our Brain Talks activities in future time, after another light and truth.
thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I would love to come to your country sometime. Hopefully, when all this pandemic stuff is over, and we can all really connect
Thank
again.
you, ma'am, and thank you all for passion hearing and join with us. Our next program will be held.
I, I lost you, I think, there, but I'm just going to say goodbye because I think the connection is bad. But thank you
And our
all.
next program will be held 13 June. Our program title is Live Give Some New Info. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to go now because it's breaking up. I'm having trouble understanding or hearing. But thank you, everyone. Mwah, and stay healthy, okay? Bye.
Okay. Okay, bye, ma'am. Thank you. tranquilo.